Oh, this is just throughout time. I didn't know if you were picking a time period or not.
No, because celebrities. So today we're going to talk about celebrity deaths.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to have to remind me of the premise. We
Yeah.
talked about it like over a week ago. And
Ones that have significant like value to pop culture.
Okay. Okay.
So like people die all the time. We know that.
Regularly. They say every time you blink.
What?
You think that's true?
Oh no. Oh no. Can't stop blinking. Yeah, so with celebrities dying all the time, a lot of them like just die and like people mourn and go on. But there are some deaths that stick out to people,
Uh-huh.
you know. And kind of what I want to do is go through different deaths and then kind of talk about what we know about the person.
Okay.
So the very first one that I think we should probably talk about, which is a big one, the death of Elvis Presley.
Oh, way back.
Yeah, I think this is probably, other than like presidents or political figures dying,
Some people don't think he's dead, Keith.
he'd have to be by now.
He'd have to be by now.
Yeah.
What was it? Didn't in Men in Black, Tommy Lee Jones, didn't he say
He's in like
Elvis
Delaware?
No, Elvis isn't dead. He just went home.
Yeah, that's
Whenever
right.
they're driving upside down in the tunnel, basically meaning that he was an alien.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
But the whole movie, like a bunch of like most famous people are aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about the king?
I don't. So he. I don't have a lot on Elvis, to be frank. I mean, I know about him. I kind of know what he did. There's a lot of obscure things that I don't know when on. Like, what year did he die? 77. So, like, I don't know hardly anything about like later part of his career. Like, I remember, some of like he kind of changed rock and roll music, and then also was one of the first, like, he's like one of the first mega stars to really exist. Where
He is the first mega star.
yeah. So where he went from music to acting, and just got filthy rich and got so much attention, and like kind of the start of tabloids and all that stuff was around Elvis. I know very little about like Graceland and what all went on in like the late 60s and the 70s, whenever I think you would maybe refer to it as, I don't know if I want to call it his decline, but kind of.
Well, he was like one of the first like musical acts of like Vegas that like what's it called when they're
Headliners?
not headliners. They do like so many shows.
Oh.
What's that called? Gosh. Anyway,
Yeah, like multiple shows in a
yeah.
day or whatever, or over the period of a week.
yeah. So he was like in Vegas for like most of the like later parts of his life, and he was just kind of held up in his hotel room, like doing pills and just out of his gourd.
Yeah, I noticed it said he died of a heart attack, but I think we all know it was induced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he actually died.
Right.
Yeah. So I think kind of like the cool thing about Elvis is he was the first national sensation, 56. He served in the army. He was acting
Yep.
like an actor and still doing the music career. And then he died in such a weird way on the toilet,
Yeah.
for somebody so big. And I think he was probably the first major, like, this guy's dead. Everybody's mourning all
Everybody's
over
freaking
the
out,
world.
yeah. It was a big deal. Whereas today you just get the most obscure, this person from this thing died, and they don't give you a name until you click on it, and then whenever you open it, it's like, that's time I'll never get back.
Yeah. And now you have, I guess probably back then they had it too, but like all the fake deaths, like this guy died. And then like 2 hours later, you're like, no, that didn't happen.
Well, I suppose, you got to think reporting was a heck of a lot different back then. Like, you get some information, then you had to sit down and write on it, publish it, and get it out. It's not like the internet.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick. You can get something out and then also prove whether it's true or not relatively fast, and then get that information out.
Yeah. But back in like the 70s and 80s, you didn't really know.
Nope.
So kind of quick timeline, 1930, 35, Elvis is born in Mississippi. 46, at the age of 11, gets his first guitar. They moved to Memphis in 48. In 1955, Elvis signs to RCA Records. 56, he hits national recognition. 61, Evil film, Elvis, not evil, films Blue Hawaii in Hawaii, which includes the hit song Can't Help Falling in Love with You, which you could argue is probably probably his biggest song.
You know, it really could be. Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog's pretty big, I guess.
Yeah, but I think...
You want to know the truth? The only song I really, really know is A Little Less Conversation.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It'd be the only one I listen to.
Did you ever see the Elvis movie?
Regularly. I
With
did
Tom
not.
Hanks?
I didn't.
It's good. You should
It's with
watch
Tom
it.
Hanks?
Yeah.
What year was this?
A couple of years ago.
Huh.
Tom Hanks is the general, like the manager who took advantage of Elvis.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I didn't realize Tom Hanks was in it. I think I knew it existed. Was it after the Freddie Mercury one?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yep.
Elvis dies at age 42 at his home in Memphis. Okay, I thought he died in Vegas.
No, it was at home. But that's where Graceland is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, he died there. That's also part of why it was so hard. If I remember right, like it's been a really long time since I thought about any of this. I remember like watching bits and pieces of this stuff on like I don't know VH1 or whatever growing up, you know. But that had something to do with like the obscurity of whether he was dead or not, right? Because
I don't know.
something about the body and I can't remember.
Hang on.
You shouldn't have teed me up for this. My my regular Elvis theory or information's not great.
So, Elvis Presley died 40 years ago. Let's see why. That's going to be a lot. Some people believe Elvis was connected to the mafia. One of the biggest theories on why Presley may have faked his death is because he had to, in order to escape the mafia, Gail Brewer Giorgio, the author of the 1988 best-selling book Is Elvis Alive, recalled in a recent interview with Time how she poured through thousands of FBI documents to come to the conclusion that Presley was an American hero who had gone into witness protection.
As Elvis or after Elvis he went into witness protection?
As Elvis, I guess.
Okay, so his name really wasn't Elvis and he really wasn't...
No, his name was Elvis.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then he would have went into witness protection after they faked his death.
Yeah.
I assumed that he would just probably... My thought would be that he just owed him a lot of money.
He says the FBI enlisted Presley as an undercover agent in 1976 to help the agency infiltrate a criminal organization called the Fraternity, which was apparently made up of dozens of racketeers. Presley volunteered, spurred by his love of America and respect for the FBI. According to Brewer Giorgio, the author said the agency had approached Presley because a member of the Fraternity had apparent dealings with Presley over the sale of an airplane the singer had. But when Presley was found to be a mole, he was put into witness protection, citing what she said was evidence from the FBI documents and interview. So he faked his own death because he thought he was going to be killed by the Fraternity.
I didn't know any of this.
I didn't either.
I had always assumed that people thought he faked his death. I mean, the mafia thing, I maybe had heard because he owed him a bunch of money, but then I also heard it was just because he was so tired of the lifestyle he was living.
I mean, you can't do anything at that level.
Yeah.
The FBI never investigated Presley, but a folder in his name was created because he had been the target of several extortion attempts the FBI probed. The released documents outline the extortion cases, and they also show Presley's admiration for the FBI. During a tour Presley took of the FBI's headquarters in 1971, the musician spoke favorably of the Bureau and offered his services in any way, according to the FBI memo. There's also mentions of Presley's plane and business arrangement involving the aircraft. Elvis experts say the docket lacks evidence suggesting Presley is alive. I mean, if you're faking your death, you're probably not flying your airplane all over the place.
Probably not. You're probably not doing. You're probably pretty much just dropping your shit in that lifestyle, and that's it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
See, all of this evidence points to a death. The medical evidence, the eyewitness report, Lacey told Time, to have faked his death would have required the silence and the services of literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people over the years. Wow, that saved us reading and buying that guy's book.
Yeah, So then there's this whole movie about 3,000 Miles to Graceland, and isn't that about the guys that are gonna go rob it? Maybe, or you could have looked this up. I remember this being a big deal. I don't know if I ever sat down and watched it. Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner. Yep. Crime is King.
IBM, tell you what it is.
What?
John Lovitz is in this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people in it. Go back up. Howie Long.
Does Courtney Cox have that terrible hair?
I don't think so. Is that a gang of ex-cons rob a casino during Elvis Convention Week? Oh, that's right.
Oh.
But I think for some reason I thought they're trying to get to Graceland. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's all just because they're dressed up like Elvis.
Looks like they're in.
They're in Vegas whenever they rob. I get that, but for some reason I think that they rob it and try to get back to Graceland.
Not to get off topic, but why?
Well, we're off topic, so.
Why is like every movie going to Las Vegas? How come every movie has a convertible that the people drive to Las Vegas?
Because it's nice in Las Vegas.
But every movie?
Yeah.
Seems a little
That's
ridiculous.
what you do when you drive through the desert.
Top down?
You don't have to worry about rain, generally.
True.
I don't know. You also don't want to do it like in December or January out there because it still does get pretty cold.
Yeah.
Hell, it got cold when we were there in October.
Yeah, it was chilly. I love John Lovitz, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome. Ice-T's in this?
Yeah. Thomas Hayden Church. There's a bunch of people.
Yeah.
David Arquette. But this is not what we're
No.
topics about.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll watch that and talk about it at some point because I kind of missed it. But
Yeah, so that's Elvis. I think he's the biggest. Medications, maybe. Hypertensive heart disease. Toxicology analysis of Presley blood found high levels of Dilaudid, Percodone, Demerol, Kool-Aids,
Demerol.
and codeine.
Yeah, Dilaudid, Percodan, Demerol, Quaaludes,
What?
and codeine. Do you know about Quaaludes?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
It's
Ludes.
what was that guy feeling?
Just with the Ludes alone, man. I personally know some people that remember whenever you just used to be able to go out and just buy Ludes and take them.
Yeah.
And they just basically the way it's been explained to me is they just make you feel like you're super drunk, super fast.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like taking shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, except for it's one pill and it's relatively fast and long acting.
Yeah. Okay, so how did the world react to Elvis Presley's death? President Jimmy Carter, R.I.P., praised Elvis with having permanently changed the face of American pop culture. I think that is an astute observation. Thousands of people soon gathered outside of Graceland to view his open casket. His cousin Billy Mann took $18,000 to secretly photograph the body, and the picture appeared on the cover of the National Enquirer's biggest-selling issue ever. Around 80,000 people lined the processional route to Forest Hill Cemetery, where Elvis was buried next to his mother. Oh. And, even today people are visiting his grave daily
I'm
and
sure.
leaving stuff.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah, I do.
You
I do
that's
think.
going to dry up at some point?
I don't know.
The reason I ask you this, slight sidebar, but I know just a very little bit about Elvis because it's way before my time, right? I was thinking, so I was in Hy-Vee the other day, and the classic rock that was on was Detroit Rock City by Kiss.
Hell yeah.
I know, but do you think about how many kids these days really know very much about Kiss? Has there already have you already wrapped your mind around we know Kiss because our parents loved Kiss.
No, my parents
didn't
didn't
really-
love Kiss.
Well, I know, but all the same, our
Yeah.
parents' age of people
Yeah.
loved Kiss. Like it was still on the radio. It was still popular whenever we were growing up. But then like now, it would be similar to us knowing about Elvis or it's so far like we at least were close enough like with people our parents' age to know like Kiss and Led Zeppelin and all that type of stuff. But the farther that you get away from it, because it's not like I'm not generally putting like once in a while listen to Led Zeppelin or Kiss or any of that stuff. But you know what I mean? Like our parents would listen like that and Aerosmith and all that stuff all the time. But now that that's not what we're putting on regularly, don't you think it's like it would be us like trying to like understand like the Supremes or something, that was so far before our time?
Yeah, I don't think I think people are still going to know Kiss, Led Zeppelin. I think what happens is
I'm sure people said the same thing about Chuck Berry, but
Chuck Berry peeps on women going to the bathroom.
no, but I'm just saying like a kid today wouldn't know shit about Chuck Berry,
I think so. We live in a world of content.
Mm-hmm.
I think the radios, the playlist, they just build on top of. I don't think people are like Pandora Radio, not Pandora. What's the
Spotify or whatever.
No, the one that your car comes
Sirius
with.
XM.
Sirius.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of stack on top. So like you get Led Zeppelin, and then you'll hear like Green Day right after it. I think it just kind of new music comes, and as it ages, they just throw it in that, and so everything gets compressed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think people still know who they are, but they don't have the same interest in it as like say people, because there's so much more being thrown on top of it content wise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but like I mean that's my point. That's the start of things starting to trickle away from everybody knowing it, because you turn on a classic rock station now and you get Blink-182 and Green Day,
Alice in
The
Chains,
Offspring, and Alice in Chains and Nirvana, and which is all things that were relevant whenever we were growing up still. Like we're talking about within 5 to 10 years of it still have coming out, which means it's still popular enough. But now you're talking about 50 years. You know what I mean?
I think there's a small group of bands like the Rolling Stones, Green Day, probably Kiss, Led Zeppelin. They're the lifetime bands.
Yes, I agree with
household
you.
names.
My problem is I don't think you put Green Day in that lump.
I think you do.
But it's too more present. There's still
don't think of it as present. Think of it as household names. You go anywhere, everybody knows Green Day. Not everybody's going to know The Offspring.
Like Charlie Pride was a household name at one time. It's not anymore.
Yeah, but like Green Day and like Led Zeppelin, the Stones have kind of stood the test of time. Like it comes like after 25 years or something, you're still a household name.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying can you name music that is 100 years old?
Yeah, I just don't want to.
Right, yeah, because you don't know. Cause it's it's so far in the past.
Robert Johnson, dude.
Okay,
Crossroads.
But I'm just saying. I just think that I think it does eventually fade out. I think it's slow, but I think we're already starting to see that migration away from that a little bit.
I think if that was
XM does help because there's so many channels and they can put. Like, you can literally just go to something like Ozzy's Boneyard and listen to everything. I mean, that's still not quite far enough away, but getting close. It's getting 30 to 40 years away,
I don't want to believe that because the Rolling Stones are still selling out stadiums for after 60 years.
I know, but they're going to die, Keifer.
I don't think they will.
Yeah. Yes, they will.
Every
AC/DC doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, they do.
Huh? No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
Who's playing with them?
They had Axl Rose a couple years ago.
Oh, Jesus, that wasn't a couple years ago. That was quite a while ago, and that's because Brian Johnson can't play no more.
Oh, he's back with them.
No.
Yeah.
Since when?
April 10th, they're playing in Minneapolis.
With Brian Johnson?
I'm pretty sure.
They said he had to quit. He was deaf.
Yeah, they... Here, I'll just Google who's singing.
Yeah, 25. It says right up top, buddy.
Did it? Who?
Yeah.
Brian
We'll be
Johnson?
seeing
Yeah.
ABC's 25 North American Power Up Tour
Yeah.
since 2016. I was gonna say that was a long time ago that Axl Rose finished those shows for them. It's almost 10 years ago.
Dude, I forget. It was a pretty good fit, I think.
I thought he
killed it.
was actually pretty good at
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I thought he sang those songs better than
I
Guns
thought-
N' Roses songs.
I know. I thought he did. He is a natural fit for that.
Dude.
I would agree.
Angus Young looks like he's gonna die.
Yeah. Well, they're old, buddy. They're
I
in their
know.
70s, if not pushing 80.
Brian Johnson doesn't look bad, but Angus Young.
He's a hair younger though. I mean, not a lot.
Yeah.
But they picked Brian. We're way off topic here, but they picked Brian because he was a younger guy in a band that they saw at a bar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Bon Scott said, "This is the guy I want to replace me."
It.
And some people were pretty pissed off about it.
Can you imagine dressing as a little schoolboy in the 70s as an adult? And now, as an 86-year-old or however old he is, you still have to dress
You still
like
have
that.
to do it. I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, I believe it. I know.
All right.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So, there
I'm
was
excited to watch you pick these because it's possible you would pick ones that I wouldn't.
there is one I saw when I was researching it.
So Elvis,
she's not-
dead, big deal.
Big
first,
deal.
First major coverage. To sum that up.
This, I remember,
I remember when Anna Nicole Smith died.
but I knew nothing about her other than, didn't she, Anna Nicole Smith?
Mhm.
It was a huge televised thing. My parents watched it. Everybody's parents watched it, like, in Fairfax anyway. She was, like, married to an old guy for the money. What do you know about this? Because you were an adult.
I was
paying
not
taxes by
I
2007.
was not an adult. I mean, I was paying taxes. I was not an adult. You're gonna have to. Some of this you're gonna have to refresh my memory on because yes, I do remember this. I remember Anna Nicole Smith. She was a softcore porn actress and model. And I'm trying to think like she I believe she had some bit parts in some other stuff, but
Well, she was in, like, Scary Movie, right? In one of those.
possibly you're gonna have to look up what all she was in that wasn't softcore porn. But
Yeah.
why was she? No, go back to why was she famous?
Where?
Right above what you just dropped
Oh.
down. Poster girl for Roller Coaster Life of Fame. She kicked off her career as Playboy centerfold. Don't know why I couldn't produce that, but yes, started in Playboy, and then got Playmate of the Year, and then she would model for like it says up there, H&M, Maxim. I don't see that on there, but I'm positive she was Maxim, GQ, Marie Claire, and then like I said, positive she did softcore porn.
Yeah.
But that lines up with being a Playboy.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Which kids today aren't even gonna know that there was nudity in Playboy. But
No, she had a TV show.
yes, it was like a reality show about her. She was in the Naked Gun movies. I do kind of remember that.
That's
now.
probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't think she was in Scary Movie, but she could have had a bit part. But I don't.
This is probably what I'm thinking.
Thinking of,
Just
yeah, she was in the Naked Guns. She was known for being like your super blonde airhead, kind of bimbo-y airhead was
Yeah.
kind of her thing. And yes, she did marry some guy that was super old. Whilst, let me think about this. I believe the deal was he died, and then she married another guy and got all that guy's money, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And that was the whole scandal-y thing.
J. Howard Marshall. Oh, my God.
Yep. He was 89. She was 26. She had probably just gotten popular, I would say.
94.
Mhm.
Well, that said she got Playmate in 96.
Two.
No,
92 and
93. Yeah.
So she had just gotten popular. Third wife. Yep, oil guy. Kind of forgot about that.
Dude, those oil guys have so much money.
Oh, yeah, they do. But
Went to Yale.
I think there was this whole thing about when he died. I think she had already had her boyfriend before he was dead. And like I said, she ended up with. She also. I was getting to this, but her boobs were enormous.
Yeah, I just saw that
Like,
picture.
they huge breasts.
Fake,
And that
probably.
Was, yeah, they were fake. And that's kind of whenever big fake breasts really took a skyrocket. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it was getting more and more popular to have boobs done at that point.
This says Anna Nicole spent millions of his money before they were married.
Yep.
Smith focused on earning her living before marrying Marshall, but he was still happy to spend lavishly on her well before their wedding. According to Texas Monthly, Smith racked up a $2 million on Marshall's Platinum Express cards, buying diamond jewelry in a single shopping trip.
And that's not like people will look at 2 million and be like, I mean, that's not that crazy for somebody that's rich today.
Yeah.
But that's quite a bit of money in 1994.
Yeah.
It's like it's a pretty good chunk of change. Not that he wasn't good for it, I don't think, but it's probably more like on the order of saying what, like 15 or 20 million today.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Holy shit. They had an all-white wedding, and he couldn't stand, and Anna Nicole Smith jetted off after the reception.
See, I think she had a separate boyfriend throughout the whole thing, was kind of what they were saying or trying to
I
prove.
would
And she
imagine.
definitely, like, when he died, she definitely was with this other guy.
Yeah.
And people weren't, and I can't remember who the other guy was. I think we saw him in a picture up there, if I remember.
The wedding reception featured a champagne and chocolate cake. Good choice. And immediately afterwards, Smith kissed Marshall and told him, "Bye, darling, I'm off to Greece."
Yep. That sounds right.
How pissed do you think his kids were?
Oh, unbelievably. That was kind of the whole thing, right? She was just kind of spending all his money, and he was letting her.
Oh, she was barred from seeing him alone in his final
Yep.
months.
Yep. I was trying to think when he died.
95, so like a year or two after the wedding.
Yeah. Yep.
Gee, many Christmas.
Yep. She got a lot of money. I do remember that. It was a pretty big controversy.
Yeah, I would imagine his son battled in court.
Yep. Left it all to his son. I think she tried to sue for some of it, maybe. This is a lot of stuff I can't remember. And like the reality show was well after this.
1.6 billion in 1996.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised she wasn't in the will.
I'm willing to bet, and I don't know. We should be able to find. I think that's the guy that she ended up.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet there was probably a prenup.
I would imagine marrying somebody
I
like
think you'd
that.
be able to find that, but
There's so much like legal litigation that like people like us would never understand until this hits $1 billion.
yeah,
Yeah, I just remember it being a huge deal.
it was a pretty big deal. She died unexpectedly. She wasn't particularly old.
She's pretty.
Yep, she was really.
She's
pretty.
very Marilyn Monroe-esque.
Yeah, and she was out partying a lot and in the spotlight and all that stuff. Like I said, she married. Got basically most of her money came from that guy whenever she was with him.
Yeah.
And she, like I said, she eventually had to start doing porn and all that. I'm surprised that didn't even come up one time, but I know she did some.
Well, I pulled up this, and some of it like looked kind of racy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
The movies. Yeah. So Anna Nicole Smith.
yeah, that's somebody I haven't thought about in a really long time, Keifer.
Yeah, I think about it every once in a while because, like, in my head, that's just so weird. I had no idea who it was, but like, such a big thing.
Yeah.
Next on the list,
You are just skip around. This obviously gonna have to be more than one part, and I'm hoping we can remember who the hell we
yeah,
talked about versus not.
probably just as big as Elvis's death. Michael Jackson.
Yes.
This
This is another
huge.
one I got to dust off. I remember when it happened. I remember everything going on. Of course, you remember all the controversy around not only him dying, but then, of course, having trouble with children.
Which, hang on.
And I'm pretty
The
sure
thing,
Anna Nicole Smith, didn't she overdose? I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
yeah.
Anyway, on to Michael Jackson.
One of the things about like his allegations is
I forget he was only 50 too. That's also
yeah.
mind-blowing.
Who's a Home Alone kid? Macaulay Culkin. Him and Corey Feldman would like hang out at his house,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them swear that he never did anything weird with them. And think about Corey Feldman, who's been very open about his sexual abuse in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah.
That's something that's always kind of like stuck out to me, like especially Corey Feldman. Like he's very mentally messed up because of everything, and he's a cute kid.
Yeah. A lot of times, abusers do pick people that have already been abused, but you also wonder in this situation if it's like he just didn't with those two individuals.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know. I mean, maybe he didn't. Maybe he obviously struggled because he really didn't have a childhood at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows the story about, oh God, his dad's name. Why am I blanking on that? Joe Jackson. Like,
Joe Jackson.
yeah, not only, like, did he, like, have them basically working and performing. They didn't really get education. They didn't really get time. But then, like, Michael was the star, so he got it even worse than the rest of them. Is what I understand now. I'm sure some of the siblings probably don't necessarily feel that way. It probably was not great for all of them.
Yeah, no. But for him especially, and just doing this solo career stuff where it shot him into the ranks of Elvis, the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, it's...
Wouldn't have been the first one to go through it, but also might be the first person, might have actually reached a level of success that nobody had to that point.
Yeah, I would say he's probably more successful than Elvis just because of the international part of it.
Yes, and just, there's always building blocks to make things more and more popular. And I mean, this dude was which is insanely talented individual. Yeah,
I've watched videos of like Luthier, one of the guitar players that he'd like use in sessions all the time, and there's different. I don't know the keyboards, but he'd have like 7 different keyboard players, and he said he'd go into the studio and he'd be like, "All right, do this." And he'd like sing every single part, and just it would like layer and like make the song.
Yeah.
And he's like, his writing, he didn't know how to play instruments, but just like what he heard in his head and how he could pick apart what each individual instrument would be doing to build the song was impeccable. And just his writing and dancing. Yeah. I'm not big for dancing. That always seems weird.
I'm not either, but you can still watch videos of that man and be like, geez, I don't know how he, like, it's almost supernatural. Some of the way he's able to move his body. Yeah. And so smooth. Like, it's just insane how it almost looks like he's on wires or something.
Yeah.
Extremely amazing. But yeah, so then I want to make sure we get the drug right.
Yeah.
Propofol, I think.
Yes. What did Michael Jackson die of? Propofol intoxication.
Yeah.
That was given to him from his doctor. Here, let's just read the explanation. Propofol is a powerful anesthetic that's used for general anesthesia and conscious sedation. It's a white, oily solution that's fast-acting but wears off quickly. Jackson's physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in 2011 for providing the drug. The Los Angeles County coroner ruled that Jackson's death was a homicide. The coroner also found that lorazepam, midazolam, diazepam, lidocaine, and ephedrine contributed to Michael Jackson's death.
Yeah, he had a ton of shit in his system, and obviously the propofol, which you need to look into propofol. I think, I don't know if I think it actually is still occasionally used.
Intravenous, maintain general, white. I
think it's unfucking believably addicting too. which I mean most
I would
I assume it's an
imagine.
opioid.
There's been increasing evidence that propofol mimics the actions of other addictive substances such as alcohol and nicotine and poses a risk for addiction.
Yeah, your dosage is pretty important.
And propofol is still
Yep.
used. Yeah,
Yep.
so probably the
And
reason.
then fentanyl
Yeah.
came out of that too, if I remember right.
Fitting all them children in your bedroom. So the reason
That'll
probably.
go well on the clips.
Yeah. Dr. Conrad Murray was found guilty because it was intravenous and he had to
Because he had to
inject him.
administer it,
Yeah.
and there was really no reason for him to have it. So the way I understand it is propofol is largely used for like post surgeries,
Yeah.
similar to fentanyl. If I not mixing my drugs up, because I did do that for a while, but it's just like a really really serious pain medication.
Yeah.
Find out if it's an opiate real quick. Scroll down because I think there was.
Where?
Just grab the Wikipedia. Anesthetic from use for induction maintenance of general anesthesia. Yeah, okay. So
Soybean oil.
It's actually to put you to sleep. Chemically termed, formally approved, intravenous, unconscious, SUVs, combination medications. People aren't killing for this. Emulsion formalin, soybean oil, and lichen, giving it white milk. So maybe it's not an opioid. I figured it would say up there.
Opioid. Commonly, propofol and opioids. Doesn't answer it. No, I guess it's not because propofol and opioids can be used together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
he was being administered this by his doctor at his request. The problem was the doctor really shouldn't have been giving it to him just because.
Yeah. Do you think, though, being the doctor, all right,
I think this goes on in Hollywood all the time because if you have enough money, you can get whatever the hell drug you want.
You can get whatever drug you want, you can pay for whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you have, from a doctor's perspective, you're making boatloads of money.
Mm-hmm.
And two, Michael Jackson has your number that he's calling and texting regularly. You're in his house.
He's paying you to do it.
Yeah, but there's got to be some sort of ego thing. Like when he goes back to hang out, when the doctor has beers with his buddies, he's like, "Yeah, I was over at Michael Jackson's house earlier today."
Yeah.
That's it's a status thing.
He's probably not doing it for only Michael Jackson. It's the other problem.
Yeah, I know, but it's like an ego status thing that
Yeah.
you can bounce around and be like, "Yeah, I was just on Leonardo da Vinci's yacht."
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a conversation for another day, but I would argue that it's not even that because there's plenty of doctors that I think generally can be persuaded into prescribing something you don't necessarily need.
I mean, you get that in Florida, the pill mills that were.
You get it everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, at one time I know people that were just running to doctors and getting prescriptions for Adderall. Like back whenever they didn't totally understand the full effects of it, and it's just like you'd be able to walk in and just be like, I can't focus. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
That's your Adderall script. You know what I mean? So it goes on everywhere. Now this is obviously scaled up a lot, but which we could. I don't know. I hate to spend a bunch of time getting into big pharma, but I mean, there's still a lot of money involved in getting doctors to prescribe your medicine. Anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Michael Jackson had vitiligo.
Yeah.
The loss of pigment resulting in white or light patches of the skin.
Mm-hmm.
What am I trying to say here? I feel like
I've seen
doesn't
other people with it.
Full on like that, not like the patchy. Because I've seen people before. It's all
Everybody
patchy.
I've seen it's patchy.
Yeah. I always heard growing up he did something because of his dad.
The big thing where people started freaking out was first the nose.
Yeah.
And then not only first the nose, but second, third, and fourth because he didn't stop messing with his nose.
But that's also people that are abused heavily as a young child. You see this with like Amanda Bynes, how she looks now. Like they try to change their.
She's dead, right?
No, I don't think so.
I thought Amanda Bynes is dead.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
They change their features so much because like looking in the mirror reminds them of that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if that was always something with Michael Jackson.
I don't know. And then you're right. It's normally patchy. I don't know. Was
This says he used makeup and skin lightening creams to even out his complexion, making his skin appear light.
light? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there finding some way to match his mess with his
Yeah.
pigment so that it was even to the lighter color. I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is kind of before like all the like it's okay to be comfortable in your skin, because like now you see ads with people with like vitiligo and it looks or like
Yeah.
scars and different things, and it's pretty cool.
Yep.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about him.
Yeah, I don't either. And we've talked about him a few times. I do have to pee already.
What? Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, we're 41 minutes in.
Are we really?
Yeah.
I don't care. Pick one more. We'll talk about it, and then.
Oh, okay. One more. I had another one.
Just so interested to see what you picked. There's a couple of my.
There's others in mind. Matthew Perry's on this list. I get it. You can't swim. Kobe spent too much time in the air. Those are going to be.
Can't swim because he was probably as high as Michael Jackson whenever he died.
Those are going to be good clips. Okay, I'm not on this list because I thought of a couple other.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
probably the big one for me, and I don't think the masses grieved properly for this, or
It was a big deal.
I don't think people have like when it comes to like Michael Jackson, I get it. When it
Yeah.
comes to Elvis, I get it.
Well, he's not
I-
quite the star that they were.
But nobody, and I mean this, has a more pure heart than this guy.
Yeah.
And he still gets a lot of love, I will say it, but
Yeah.
people should still be grieving. And this man is Steve Irwin.
Well, his wife and his daughter still do a lot of work with the foundation and all that stuff.
Yeah, they still have the thing, and his son.
Well, yeah, his son was starting to, once he got old enough, was starting to do it, wasn't he?
Yeah,
the same
I
type
think
of
so.
thing, and was like, I mean, he's.
I don't think he was doing a TV show, but he was like running the park.
Yeah, he's spitting image of him.
Yeah. For any celebrity deaths, and probably like family deaths, I'd say, but I was pretty young when a lot of family died. I was young when he died. Cried the hardest over Steve Irwin.
It seems like. It seems like it was before 2006. I guess I didn't realize I was 16 whenever that happened.
Because 2006, Steve Irwin died. 2006, Stadium Arcadium came out.
Yeah.
And that was the big switch for me, like, interest-wise.
Yeah.
Because my parents, I had, like, a fake stuffed alligator, a, like, big one, a fake, like, plastic one. I had, like, his get up, like, all the brown and the shorts, and I'd jump off couches and, like, wrestle him.
My brother used to tell people he wanted to be a snake hunter.
Yeah.
Instead of a crocodile hunter whenever he
Nice.
was little.
Yeah.
Too. So
Now, I watched every episode. I just absolutely was fascinated
everybody
from a young
watched
age.
this guy. He was on everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
It was kind of like the Chicago Bulls in the late 90s where like it was either you're watching Steve Irwin or the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah,
I feel
true.
like for one point in there.
There was just something about his personality, the way he treated wildlife.
Yeah.
You know.
He was easy to like. He was easy to. I mean, sometimes you'd laugh at him a little bit.
No, he was
just
funny,
because-
too.
Yeah, because he was funny and he was just so energetic and you were. I mean, he was just generally entertaining and
I think being Australian, that accent really
helps,
adds.
yeah. But his whole demeanor is just so. I don't know. Just go out and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was extremely, and there was a lot of iterations of things similar to him afterwards, and they just never were quite the same.
No. No, there's just something.
But just genuine. I mean, cared about the
Yeah.
animals.
Oh, what were Steve Irwin's last words? We're saying thanks to him, like, think of your kids, Steve. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Lions Recall on Studio 10. And he just sort of calmly looked up to me and said, I'm dying.
Well, it happened underwater, did it not?
Yeah, he was, they were snorkeling in a stingray.
Got him, yeah.
Yeah, and they said, so he pulled the stingray, the tail out himself. And they said that if he didn't do that, he probably would have lived.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like when you get a knife, like, you're not supposed to,
Supposed to just pull it out.
Yeah.
But people just react that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
easily.
Yep. Yeah, that is. Terry Irwin. Yeah.
Yeah, Terry.
Bendy Irwin.
Yeah. Bob.
And Robert. Yeah, I mean, everybody watched this guy. He was extremely entertaining. Like I said, for periods of my, I'm going to say later elementary, early junior high, like this dude was just on TV all
Yeah.
the time. Like you just turn it on and that's one of the things that you watched.
This guy, like, was my life for, like, the early parts. I had, like, all the remote control cars of, like, his stuff. Action
Yeah.
figures. It came with, like, little snakes and crocodiles and different things. I was fully vested in this guy. In first grade, I sent him my Flat Stanley, because we read that book and we had to send Flat Stanleys. He sent me, like, a card back with, like, his writing.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Maybe not.
maybe.
But yeah.
But I also sent him an invite to my birthday party.
Did you?
And he sent me back, like, a bunch of, like, flyers, like a map of, like, his park,
Mhm.
and, like, a handwritten letter saying, like, hey, sorry we can't make it.
Yeah.
And I refuse, don't say it, I refuse to even imagine the possibility of my parents writing the letters themselves.
Do you think so?
I refuse. But the one thing about the Flat Stanley is I guess a bunch of kids had, like, sent him Flat Stanleys.
Mm-hmm.
He had a cutout, and I got a picture where he would stick Flat Stanleys on, like, him holding, like, a cardboard cutout with an alligator.
Yeah.
And mine was on there.
Yeah.
So I had that picture.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think he probably, or somebody on his team did.
Probably. Usually it does come from him. I mean, I think that's generally
Yeah.
true.
And I don't know. He was kind of a superstar.
He was.
But in my head, I'd like to think that, like,
I mean, he's no Tiger King, but
oh, God. That would be. Could you imagine?
I'm going to guess those two wouldn't get along very well.
Could you imagine Joe Exotic getting his hooks into Steve Irwin and they get married?
No, I can't
Yeah.
because Steve Irwin was pretty genuine, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think this is probably, to me, the biggest celebrity death.
It was a pretty big deal, at least when we were growing up, for sure. Like, this is one I absolutely remember. And it was like, I mean, the internet was not overly prominent, but prominent enough in 2006. Like, I remember just like, well, the crocodile hunter died. And everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
No way. You know? And it come out because they obviously would have been filming. So you were waiting on a season to essentially come out at that time.
Yeah.
You know? So, because, things didn't happen near as fast.
Did they release episodes? I don't remember.
I believe so, but
Yeah.
it's cut short, and they, of course, didn't release anything from whenever he died. But,
Yeah.
I think they still had the
I don't.
final season or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has done more for conservation than probably Steve Irwin.
Which is interesting to think about, because you wonder what conservation in Australia is really like compared to, like, the United States.
So they still had, like, indigenous tribes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can't really mess with what they do.
I don't. Well, and you can't even. I mean, there's portions of that country you can't even really get into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just so dangerous with snakes and different things.
All kinds of things. Yeah.
It's crazy too
What's
to
the
think.
name of it? Why can't I think of the name of the area that's so. The Down Under.
The Down Under.
That's just the name for Australia. What is the name of that dangerous area though? It has a.
Inner Perth.
Sherwood crime rate.
Perth because of
High crime rate, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Perth's a town. I thought there was a name for that whole area in there that they can't basically inhabit. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they had a name, had a term for it.
Gee, many Plymouth. Northern Territory, Queensland. No. I guess not.
I guess not. I thought it was like kind of in the middle, you know.
Yeah.
They kind of live out around the edges for the most part.
It's crazy to think that Australia was built as a prison colony.
Yeah. Yep. British prison colony. That's
Yeah.
where they shipped them all down there. Presumably because it was so dangerous, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do much with the,
The jellyfish you can't do.
yeah.
Yeah. Australia is always cool. I've always wanted to go. I just don't want to do the flight.
It's a long way.
Yeah, that
no matter
sucks.
what you do.
Yeah.
It's a long ass ways over there. I don't think people always understand.
Dude, it's got to be crazy when you're like shipping like snakes and stuff to zoos. That's all by boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure like you can't just like put
Yeah.
snakes or crocodiles in like a shipping container. I think you probably have to have like a zoologist or biologist around, don't you think?
I would imagine, yeah. You probably, yes.
That sucks.
It's probably like a large mobile by water veterinary shop, pretty much. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. But no, I think that's probably good for the episode.
Yeah, we should do more of these. I think that'd be a lot of fun to keep on some of those. I don't want to lose that list because there's a lot of people on that
Yeah.
list that I hope we get to that I actually will remember better. It's kind of funny, like, this was a good trip down memory lane because I haven't thought about some of this in a very long time.
Yeah, I knew Anna Nicole Smith you would have remembered.
Yep.
And
I remember Princess Diana.
yeah,
That would be a fun one to chat about. I remember Aaliyah. That was because of a plane crash. But she was on her way to superstardom.
Yeah. Heath Ledger was a big one. Betty
I remember
White,
Heath Ledger.
Whitney Houston. One not on here. Amy Winehouse, of course, but the Doors singer. That was a big one.
Oh, yeah, Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Jim Morrison,
Mhm.
I would argue, is probably a bigger death than Jimi Hendrix.
Possibly.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
something we can talk about.
He was
another
around
time.
a lot longer. But, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. Matthew Perry would be great to talk about. Brittany Murphy, I remember that. I remember
don't
when
even
she
know who
was.
that is.
Oh, she was popular. She's in like a few movies, most notably one with Ashton Kutcher. But she was popular. She was in
Yeah.
a handful of movies at a particular point in time when I was growing up that everybody knew who she was.
Yeah.
I was trying to see some other ones on there.
Oh.
Just kind of Anthony Bourdain.
I feel like that was a big one.
It
Yeah.
was. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman. I mean,
Bob
that was
Saget.
shocking. Bob Saget was kind of
Yeah.
shocking. Yeah.
Amy.
Amy Winehouse. I remember a lot of that.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee. That's an easy one to talk about. Like I remember
Brandon
kind of
Lee.
when that happened. He was The Crow.
Oh,
He was
never seen it.
He was oh Jesus, why can't I think of his dad's name? Bruce Lee's son.
Fair.
I kept wanting to say the wrong Lee. Jet Li. I kept
Jet
wanting to say
Li?
Jet Li's kid. It's like that's not who it
Yeah.
is. But yeah, you know about that a little bit, right?
Mm-mm.
Got shot on set.
Oh, yeah, because Once Upon a Time in...
It was The
No.
Crow.
Oh.
Like, have you watched The Crow?
No,
Or are you familiar
never
with
seen
that?
it. No.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. That's,
Only thing I know
I don't
about
want to
the...
open that can of worms.
Yeah.
It's we'll start with Brandon Lee and work our way through some other ones that I know and
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, I thought this would be a fun
This
little
is good.
topic.
This is fun. Yeah, nothing more fun than death, especially while we're reading Stephen King. So.
Yeah, true. All right.